and welcome back. So today we are looking at our creating an item, and we're just going to do it as a potion for now, but that can be expanded on at a later time. And let's get into it. We might be looking at the inventory system depending on how long this takes, but we'll see how it goes. So let's get back to Unity now, where I have my player, and I want to create an item in the scene. So I have a few potion bottles. And here we have the bottles. And I'm just going to grab the first one of the white. And there it is. Now, this is also, as we can see, it disappeared. It's also affected by our order and layer. I've gone and switched around our girl up to level 10, which means the trees are also on level 10, which means the potion should also be on level 10. I just want to do something here first, though. I'm going to put order and layer of the potion at 1, and I'm going to add something to this. I have a typical circle sprite. I'm going to drag it onto the potion, so let's just call this item. And let's go to the circle. Let's reset its transform. And I want this to be the shadow. So first, let's make it black. And let's make it transparent. And shrink it down. That's good enough. Now, we're going to look at the rendering of this in order. Uh, the the circle, the shadow, is set to order layer 0, and the item was set to 1. If this is above, then it's above the bottle. So I want to make sure it's below the bottle, and that the item, the bottle, is above it. But that's not going to work well with our girl because she's set all the way up at 10. And I want her to kind of walk behind the bottle and in front of the bottle. So I need, right now she'll only walk in front of the bottle. If I take this bottle, you can see she's in front of it, no matter what. I need to get this. Now I could put this up to 10 and have the shadow at 9, but then the shadow is not going to play well with her. So I can actually use something here called a group. And there is a sorting group. It's going to take all of this group, the item and the circle, and it's going to override this. So if I put this up at 10, now this is still working. This is saying I'm at 1, my shadow's at 0, but together we are at 10. So now we can take this and I can see it's in front of her. The shadow is in front of her too. And then it's behind her. And the shadow is behind her. So everything works in perfect order now. Okay, so we've got an item in the scene. And we've got it all set up to be sorted correctly. And in order to pick it up, I'm going to need a typical. And I'm going to use something simple, just a box collider. We just need a collider. And I don't want this to block. I don't want it to be blocking movement. So I set this to trigger so that you can walk through it and it's going to trigger something in our code. That's as far as we're going to go on the creation of this. Let's just minimize some of those things that we don't need anymore. The next thing is to actually create the script. So let's look at our script. And that will be in scripts. And I did not create, so here's the first new script we're going to create. And we'll call it I'm just going to call it item. Okay. So the item, now that everything's compiled, I just drag that onto there. And what do we need for item? Oh, item. I don't need these. And I need access. No. Okay. Before we get to item, we're going to look in our scriptable objects. We created a script called item scriptable object. So a scriptable object exists in the asset. It's an asset. It's an object, but it's a script. And I could drag it into onto slots on an object, but it cannot be put on an object by itself. It's not a script for putting on a game object. So it does not inherit from mono behavior. It's a scriptable object. And when I create it, I'm going to be right-clicking in my asset folder. I'm going to go to create, and I want to create something. So create an asset menu, and its menu name is going to be equal to, let's call it RPG/item. So once I create the item, it's going to create a file. And the file name, file name is going to be equal to new item. Just like when I create a new script, it says new, I think, new model behavior script or something like that. All right, so what does this item have? It's going to contain a public sprite item sprite. This is what the item's going to look like. The item's going to have a public name. No, sorry. Name is string. It's got item name. And let's say we can say public int, and this will be the healing amount. Let's say it's a potion for healing or something. Let's just say alter amount, I guess, whatever you want. And you can put in an enum to choose whether it's a potion, whether it's an upgrade, whatever it is. You can make this as fancy as you want. We're just starting with a very simple one. So these are the only things I need from this: the sprite, the item's name, and the alter amount. Now we can go back to the item. Since we have a scriptable object that is going to be containing all the things we need, I can then put in a public item SO, and we'll just call it item, small I. I'm going to need access to the renderer, the sprite renderer, so I can change the graphic. So public sprite renderer, and I'm just going to call it SR. And what else do I need? For now, that's all I need. I'm going to be adding stuff. I know I'm going to be adding stuff towards the end of the series, but for now, that's all I need. And I want that on awake, it's going to get that sprite render. And the sprite is going to be equal to whatever was in the item sprite. And that's it for the looks of it. Now, to pick it up, it's going to say that on trigger, enter 2D. So when the player collides with that collider, the trigger collider on the item, we need to first find out, is it the player that collided? So if the collision dot, now there's many ways that we can actually tell different objects apart. We can tell them apart by their names, by certain IDs. In this case, we want to have like a name tag. So it's like if you walk into a supermarket and you look at someone's name tag, you know who they are. So I wanted to say the name tag is going to be player. So if it's a player, if collision is the player, then I want to pick up this item. We'll start basic. On the last episode, we are going to definitely add some more stuff to this. But for now, when I collect that, the item dot, sorry, the game object that this item is on, we're setting the active default, so it disappears. I could use destroy, but we'll see why later why I don't use destroy. Okay, so that's going to just disappear. But where does it go? Let's go back to Unity for a second now. Wait for all this to compile. Okay, I could add to my player. So where's my player? Player, there she is. I can add to my player script an inventory list. So it's just a list that when that vial is picked up, it's going to go into the list. That could work good. However, here's the problem. When I switch from, where is it? When I switch from scene 1 to scene 2, save. That player is not in scene 2. I would have to create a new player in scene 2. That new player is going to be as the default. So it does not know what happened to the player in scene 1. So there's a player in scene 1. When the scenes change, this player is destroyed and all its information is destroyed. So if I go to scene 2 and I come back to scene 1, this is going to reset to the default. We don't want that happening. So I could set this player to not destroy when I change scenes. That could work, but I don't want to do that because it's going to get tricky with where the placement of the player is. I just prefer to stick a new player in each scene. So I need something to hold the player's information. When we set up our project, I created some managers and there was a player manager. This player manager, there's only going to ever be one in all of the game. So I can say public static EM instance. So it's kind of like what we did with the player where we set up an instance for it, but this is going to work a little bit differently. When I do the awake, this time this is what I did last time. I just set the instance equal to this. But in each scene, I'm going to stick player manager, just so I can jump to a scene and test that scene. Because I want to have two things. I want that, and I also want don't destroy, unload, game object. So this game object, when it goes from one scene to the next, is never going to destroy. But if I have it in scene 1, and I have it in scene 2, and I move from scene 1 to scene 2, the one from scene 1 goes over to scene 2, and there's already one in scene 2. So that's not going to work for us. I need to somehow delete the one in scene 2. So it's going to ask that if instance is empty. So if it's never been created, then I will set that the instance is equal to this one, and this one never destroys. But if we get to scene 2, their player manager is going to wake up, and it's going to check if instance exists. It already exists. We did it already. So if it already exists, then it's not needed. Meaning, I'm going to destroy myself. And that's it. So this is our player manager. Let's just get away from here. We don't need anything else from there. So public, I'm going to do a list. And this list is going to be items. Item or item SO? Item SO. And we'll just call this item inventory equals that. All right. So the inventory is on the player manager. When I go over to the second scene, the player manager comes over with the inventory. So the new player can access this player manager and get the inventory. And that's it for the player manager for now. Let's go back to our item item. So when we pick it up, before we set it to inactive, I'm going to grab the player manager, the instance of the player manager, and I want to grab its item inventory dot add. What am I adding? I'm adding the item. Save. And that for now is all we need. Let us go back into Unity. And there's our item. Now, in resources, I want to create a folder for items. And I'm going to create a folder for dialogues. That's the other scriptable object we have. But in items, here we have our scriptable object that we created, RPG item. And it's a new item. I'm going to call this hit point 5 because it's going to be boosting us 5 hit points. HP 5. 5 boost. Doesn't matter. The alter amount, 5 hit points, and it needs a sprite. So let's go look at our sprites. Oh, that's scripts. Sprites. Let's drag the red one. All right. And let's make a couple of those. Duplicate, duplicate. So I have a hit point 5. I need a hit point 10. And let's call this a hit point 20. So that will be 20. And 20 boost. And 10. 5, 10. 10 boost, 10. And I need some new sprites. So let's go to our sprites. So I have red. Let's use blue. Items 20 sprites, blue and green. Okay, I've just created 3 items as objects. They're just assets that I can use. Here on the item, I have that item slot. He's going to be hit point 5. I need the sprite actually, let me just set this to none first. I need the sprite render linked in here. And the reason why I did that was first I want to create the item as a prefab. There we go. And now I can click on this guy and give him that. And I want 3 of them. Just to spread around. Spread the joy. And he's going to be that, and he's going to be that. So each of them gets a different item in their slot. Now we can see they're all the white potions there, but we set them to be different colors. That happens when it starts. Oh, we might get an error. We forgot to do something just now. Stop it. Okay. I now want to set up my managers. Create empty. This is my player manager. Reset. And I'm going to put player manager on it. Here's the inventory. Let's hit play and let's go collect some potions and check the inventory. I also want to check their color changes as well. So blue, green, red, and let's go and pick up. So I've just picked up nothing. Nothing picked up. Why did nothing pick up? Oh, I know why. So I was talking about that name tag, and if I go to this store, her name is untagged. I need to give her a name. She is player. And now I can play. Because it was checking to see what happens when the player hits the object. It didn't know anything about untagged. So now the player has picked up that item. And if we look at our don't destroy and load, here's our player manager. I can now see I picked up the hit point 5 object. I picked up the hit point 20. And I picked up the hit points 10. Good. So we now have an item and inventory system that works. Also, what we need to look at, and this is where the last episode is going to come up once again, is that these items are set up like this as default. If I left the scene and I came back, the items will reappear. Some games you might want that, and some items you might want that, and some you don't want to reappear. We need to be able to save the state of this scene, and when I come back to the scene, reload the last state that it was in. That's where we have created in our scripts, in our managers, a scene manager. That scene manager will take care of potions. If I have NPCs and there's different things about them that I want to be able to save. If there are a chest and the chest is either closed, opened, or emptied, any of those things, I want to save the state of it, and that will be taken care of by the scene manager. That will be on the last episode. We finished this episode. It's been almost half an hour, so I'm going to cut this one off here, and therefore that means that the inventory will be another tutorial coming up at a later date. So that is it for now, and I will see you later.